Well, hey everybody, it's Tony from the Casual Pint. I am here for Women's History Month, and I have Jordan Skeen from Clinch Brewing and Logan Doyle from Geezers Brewing, and we were just going to kind of get their perspective on brewing and kind of what they do for a living, and we thought they'd be great interviewees, and I'm probably talking a little bit too long now. So either way, I'll just go ahead and get into it. I was wondering what got you guys started in craft beer. It doesn't have to be a brewery or brewing per se, but like what got you into the scene?
Well, into the craft brewing scene, I was already interested in craft beer, but I homebrewed with my stepdad when I was in high school. Okay. And so I had been like exposed to, okay, not all beer is Bud Light, Miller Lite, just a light domestic. So I at least knew that there were other beers out there. And then in college, I decided to try some fermentation experiments, and it kind of led me into like realizing I do like fermentation science. And then I was like, well, I'm in college, let's see if that means I like science for something else, or science for fermentation, or what. And then several years later, I was doing something else and decided I hated it, and was like, yep, let's go to beer. So I just showed up at a brewery, was like, I got this, I think, can you hire me? I would love to have a job. And it worked out. So
wow.
Now it's been like 6 years.
There you go. Really?
So I, by contrast, grew up with the light domestics. My dad only drank Bud Light, and he drank like a beer once a year, maybe, growing up. He never drank. And then my grandma, if she was feeling crazy, would drink a Budweiser. So, full Bud.
Yeah.
But I grew up in North Carolina, where like craft beer just is beer. So when I got to college and all my friends got to college, there was never the period of like, oh, well, let's, whenever we get kegs, we'll get a keg of whatever's cheapest, It was like, no, we'll go to local breweries and we'll pick up beer, and that's how we'll have a good time together. So just my introduction to beer was just through craft beer. So I just kind of jumped right in, and then this was not the initial path in life, but a couple years ago, stumbled into it, kind of accidentally, but all at once. Mm-hmm. So through brew tours and going through South College's brewing science program, here we are.
Gotcha. Cool.
3 years and 2 days ago.
Well, I guess you actually already answered my next question, which when did you decide to pursue brewing? What do you find rewarding about it? I guess a good question is why are you still doing it?
I'm still doing it for a lot of reasons, but really it combines my love of art and science and not doing the same thing every day. Mm-hmm. So those were crucial to me when I found a job that I was going to be spending more time there than at home type of situation. Sure. I think another main reason I've stayed is that the community that I've found, especially in Knoxville, is just really strong. And so I've made a lot of my friends. Like, I don't have a lot of friends outside of beer now. Yeah. So it's kind of like if I left beer, I'd have to make a whole new friend group. That seems awful. But no, it really has been just like if I need help or if I'm stuck on something, I know 10 people I could call right now.
The community is a big part of it?
Yeah, a huge part of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the words out of my mouth was, I stumbled into this, but really fell in love with it because of the combined elements of like the science triggers a certain part of my brain that's touching in on math and science, and the like analytical part of the brain. But then you get this really fun creative freedom of like, okay, well, I'm gonna make a brown ale, but what does that entail? And where can I take some really fun creative liberties with that otherwise maybe I couldn't do? And then, as Jordan pointed out, Knoxville just has such a one-of-a-kind community, hence we're sitting here having this conversation. Yeah. But, we really do have such a tight-knit, awesome community that whether you're intending to stay or not, they kind of sucker you in with it.
It's true. Now, that kind of leads into my next question where I was going to ask, and this might even not be the best way to ask it, but do you have a favorite style to brew, or I don't want to pigeonhole you into one style or anything, but like, is there a certain thing about brewing a certain kind of beer or a certain category, however you want to answer it? Like, what's your kind of, when are you like really having a good time on a brew day?
When that brew day goes smoothly. I don't care what it is, so long as it goes smoothly.
Beers that don't have problems.
Beers that don't have problems. For me personally, like the thing that I'm most excited about is actually something I haven't done yet, and that's really my eventual goal is I really want to do barrel aging in the sense of like sours in a wild house. I think I went to a brewery in Richmond, Virginia, that all of their beers were all the wild yeast were harvested off of their property through a variety of different ways, and like every beer had just like such a distinct and distinguished flavor, and a lot of it was due to the yeast that they had. We just think like another element of that nerdiness of the science, like getting extra deep on it. But I'm really excited about the day that like that becomes something I can do on a more regular basis.
Okay.
I agree that as long as it goes smoothly, that's gotta be my favorite. But you know, I do get a little bit more excited when it's something we haven't done before, or we don't do a lot of, just because there's that little bit of unknown, like how's this one gonna run, how is this gonna come out, you know, that kind of excitement. But I think I get more excited when we collaborate, and the biggest reason for that is because I love to go other places, drink their beer, get a feel for their style, and then when they're like, let's make a beer together, we now get to sit down and kind of hash out how to combine the two styles, so that when you're drinking it, you're like, this is kind of like Geezers, or this is kind of like Clinch, like, and now when you have them together, it's like I can see how they collaborated. And so I kind of get, like, that's been my biggest challenge, because we do have, as much as we haven't bottled them yet or anything like that, I've always said that I've been doing barrel sours, and I'm getting really close on several of them, and then like pretty much anything I want to, we're lucky because we're all in stainless. I know some small breweries can't do lagers because they use plastic fermentation or things like that. We've always been able to do lagers and ales. So then, of course, for me, it was harvesting yeast off of fruits or harvesting yeast nearby because we're in the middle of the woods. And so I've been working on several like 3 and 4 year old cultures that are pretty much towards their end. So I think what gets me more excited is being able to collaborate, or when something is a little bit unknown.
Cool. All right, that's great answers. Well, in Women's History Month, I was going to ask, do you have a woman in history that you looked up to or been inspired by? It doesn't need to be a brewer, it could be whatever.
I used to be a history teacher, so I have lots of people from history that I admire for a variety of reasons. I feel like you can't talk about like women's history and not talk about like Elizabeth I and how she, for at least the Western world, revolutionized the idea of a woman in power that had been done for a very long time in a lot of other cultures. But Elizabeth I, and then you've got people, my history degree is in Revolution era Europe. So I love Marie Antoinette on like a whole other level. I think she's a very sad, misunderstood person from history. And then in a more modern sense, Gertrude Stein just absolutely revolutionized what it meant to be like a modern 20th century woman. And there's just so many people around her that you could talk about being so influential, and she was kind of the hub of all of these influential people. And I just think that's super, super awesome.
Cool.
My answer, so what I was going to be instead of a brewer was a lawyer. So I loved a really good arguer because that kind of influenced me to be more outspoken. So really I went for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, just because if you listen to her, even at a very young age, like the first time she was in front of the Supreme Court, she still was very effective at arguing her point. And I think part of making progress in a brewery is being able to effectively put your point out there and still be able to work with other people. And so I think ultimately I've always followed her career and was really just inspired by her at different points in my life to maybe speak up when I shouldn't have, or speak up when I was afraid to, or just in general, kind of remember like, oh, you have a voice.
Yeah.
Go ahead and use it.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much. I think this will do it. Just want to remind everybody, if you haven't been to Clinch River or Geezers, check them out. They're both great breweries. We often have them on at the Casual Pint as well, but, check out the brewery for sure. It's like great locations. And we will see you next time, and happy Women's History Month, everybody.
Cheers.